And welcome to this week's edition of The Mountain Gardener. Your host, Ken Lane, here every week talking about the landscapes of northern Arizona. It's summer. The gardens are looking beautiful. I see a little bit of heat stress. I had to bump my irrigation up a little bit. Actually, I'm down to every 5 days, I think, for most of the trees, shrubs, flowering things, roses, vines, things that are planted in the ground that have a large root mass. I'm watering. I was at every 7 days, and I saw some heat stress. So some of the top leaves were kind of scalded. And I thought, oh, I got a bug or something's going on. I took a closer look and the ground was dry. So I bumped it up a little bit. My newer plants, I'm actually hand watering. I'm just kind of adding to the irrigation, hand watering. What happens is that drip system kind of just drips right there where the drip emitter is. And it forms a kind of a rainbow, not a rainbow, a raindrop type of shape inside the soil. It looks like a little, like a silver dollar spot at the top of the ground, but down below, it's larger than it appears up top. Well, that's fine for most plants. Okay, you got one emitter, maybe two for a larger tree, but I want the entire root system hydrated. I hand water, just break out the old-fashioned hose, and I add to my irrigation. I'm not trying to time when the irrigation comes on. I'm just out there sipping coffee. The new butterfly bush that I just planted this week. I'll add to, it's on the drip system, but I add some hand watering until the monsoons come. So the rains are starting to show up in Arizona. Southern Tucson, Nogales is getting hammered right now. The White Mountains are starting to see some showers showing up. So it's just a few days away till it finally floats over to this central highland, the Payson, Sedona, Camp Verde, Cottonwood, Prescott Valley, Dewey, Humboldt, Paulden, this area, this middle part of the state. It's coming. Be prepared. Right now, I'm preparing my landscape for that event. I'm actually fertilized everything in the landscape. Well, Ken, they don't need fertilizing. Actually, they do. Your plants are more dependent on you than anywhere else in the country. So other areas, the soil, the moisture, the food, you've got topsoil. You're from Michigan, you've had 8 foot of topsoil. Here we have 8 millimeters, if that much. So there's no real holding. There's no nutritional value in your soil. You'll have to feed your plants more here than other parts of the country. Luckily, it's very easy to feed things. Actually, it's very confusing too. It's easy and confusing. Let me see if I can straighten this out for you. You do not want to use synthetic fertilizers. This is Scott's Turf Builder, your Miracle-Gro stuff. You don't want chemicals. Chemicals are very good for the plant. You'll see it activate the plant like right now. Like by this time next week, oh, I got new foliage. It's green. The negative with chemicals is it burns things that live in the soil. So it vaporizes your worms, your mycorrhizal colonies, the beneficials that live in the soil. They hate chemicals. It does detrimental value to them. They just can't. The plant benefits, but the things in the soil doesn't. And then eventually the plants suffer because they need worms. They need the mycorrhizals that attach themselves to the roots of the plant. We're going way too deep over the radio waves for beneficials that live in the ground, but they don't like chemicals. They need organics. That's the way to go. Organic plant foods. That is beneficial to the plant, and it feeds the worms, the good stuff in the soil. If the soil is healthy, plants naturally want to root deeper and pick. Like there's something going on. The plants pick up on this. They're going, whoa, this is happening. I want to grow and root here. Let me send out more taproots. And so plants feed off that energy. As long as you've got worms and the good stuff that's happening in the soil, plants know that and they want to be a part of it. So what do? If you research organic foods on the internet, You will be dumbfounded by the advice. I mean, I get confused. I go, what the world? What are they talking about? You've got to be kidding me. It can't be that hard, and it's not. So I'm into organics. I'm into organic food, organic sprays, organic plants, organic herbs, organic. All our trees are organic. Organic. It's simple once you find the right recipe. So we've got a 744 all-purpose plant food. This is one where our industry, the garden industry, the suppliers that make fertilizers. At one point, I had a rose food, a pansy food, a geranium food, two types of lawn foods, a fruit tree food, an evergreen tree food, a shade tree. It was ridiculous. We had like 10, 12 fertilizer. I went, this cannot be this hard. They're doing that so you buy more fertilizer and put it in the garage. What you need is a good, balanced fertilizer and use it regularly. That's the secret. If you can make it organic, and you should, use organics. It's better for the plants, better for the soil. So I put together a 744 all-purpose plant food. It's cottonseed meal. It's a main ingredient. I get it out of Casa Grande. Bird guano, bird poop is great for green growth. You want it green like now. You want new foliage. You want better lawns. Bird guano. Bird poop is the best stuff ever. A little bit of sulfur, some iron, and you've got yourself an organic plant food mix. Now, with chemicals, those numbers have to be really large. So 20, 20, 20, 16, 16, 16 if you have to settle. These are very high numbers because most of that chemical fertilizer gets flushed out of the soil. It's so liquid. As soon as water touches it, it starts to liquefy and it becomes available to the plant. But most of it flushes right off. The plant uses very little of that chemical fertilizer. With an organic, you can go with lower numbers because the organics are breaking down slower over a longer period of time. And so the plant has more time to pick up every bit of that organic fertilizer. That's the beauty. So it's better to go lower numbers with organics. So a 744 is perfect. That's like the perfect balance. And if you're adding a little bit of sulfur here locally, it lowers the pH. Everything becomes more available. You want to fertilize your landscape now, just before the rains arrive in summer. So I've fertilized my entire yard with 744 all-purpose plant food. I also added a weed and grass stopper. So there's a granular. While I've got the hand spreader out, I'm putting this weed stopper out so it keeps the seed from germinating. I know when the rains come, this is when the most insidious of all the weeds show up. This is when horehound takes over. The tumbleweeds become the size of like your car. They're huge. This is when the goat head goes nuts. That's the one where your dogs walk across the yard and they get that thorn in their foot. That's goat head. It only comes back by seed. If you can put a seed killer down, we call it weed and grass stopper here at the garden center, but you spread it, you let rain come and activates it, and it keeps the seed from germinating. You know the weeds are going to be bad when the rains come. They're waiting to go. Just put it down as a preventative. It only affects the seed. Once that weed starts to elongate and it starts to grow, it's too late. You need to break out the big guns like Roundup, tumor causing Roundup. If you just simply put the weed and grasshopper down, you won't need Roundup. So take advantage. So now's a strategic window for local gardens here in Arizona, northern Arizona, where you can really get more growth out of those sycamores you planted in the spring, more leaves out of the maples, longer, elongated growth out of those aspens, better looking green out of those pine and spruce. Everything in the yard should be fertilized before the rains come, and use the 744 all-purpose food. Put down at the same time your weed and grass topper and my stressed out. One last tip as we wrap this segment up. I also put a few strategic plants were kind of more heat stressed than others. I gave them one little extra. It's called humic acid. So humic is not a fertilizer. It feeds the worms in the soils so the plants want to root deeper. If your plants are stressed, they need to root out. They need more roots. Humic encourages additional roots. So all-purpose plant food, wheat, grasshopper, and humic. That's it for this segment. Be right back with Lisa Waters Lane in with your garden questions right after this.